Hello, guys. This is part three in our session of the Passion Week. And I just want to share with you guys a brief timeline and also the importance of Mary of Bethany as it pertains to this week. Who was Mary? Where was she from? What do we know about her? We know that before Palm Sunday, what Mary did to Jesus influenced all of Christianity. As we know in John chapter 12, it talks about Mary and it talks about what she did. Mary of Bethany, do you guys know what she did? She took a costly alabaster jar, pure nard. This is most of the time this is used for marriage. Most of the time this is like a dowry. This is like something that is a most prized possession. And what she does is she breaks it at the feet of Jesus in a sign saying, I give you my life, I give you what is most valuable to me, I give you everything. And this this is a picture of true worship. This is a picture of true love. Most of all, this is a picture of someone who is responding to Jesus in the proper way. This is what Jesus desires for us. As we see his love for us, he desires us to respond like Mary. And we see Saturday before Palm Sunday. So John chapter 12, it talks about 6 days before Passover. This is what happens. She takes this pure nard and lays it at Jesus' feet. And with tears, with her hair, wipes the feet of Jesus. And what we see is the fragrance fills the entire room. And guys, get this. The disciples were thinking about, you know what they were thinking about? Who is going to be the greatest among them? The disciples were thinking about, Judas Iscariot was thinking about, man, we could have sold that pure nard and done something with it. But at the core of the disciples, they weren't thinking about Jesus. The only person that knew what was coming was Mary, and Mary was getting Jesus ready for his death. This is what we would consider the ministry of preparation. This is ministry to the Lord. This is the ministry that God desires for all of us. Mary of Bethany encapsulates the picture of true worship, the picture of a true lover, a picture of someone who truly understands and knows God. I want to tell you, if we do not understand the gospel, it is because we are self-centered. It is because we're not understanding it with Jesus in mind. We're not understanding it with a wide lens. The disciples, they were focused on themselves. Judas Iscariot was focused on money. How can he get what he wants? And was willing to sell Jesus to gain and profit money. And the disciples, they were arguing who's going to be on the left and right hand. They were arguing who's going to be the greater one amongst them, because they were thinking when Jesus comes and the way that he's going to rule and reign right then and there, they're thinking this: how can I be of power, of influence? They're thinking in this mindset. But Mary of Bethany is in a completely different place of mind. I want to encourage us this week to let go of our selfish perspective, our self-centered perspective, and try to be Jesus-centered in understanding the Passion Week and the gospel. If you see Sunday, what happens? Jesus enters into Jerusalem, and we see the people worshiping him, saying Hosanna, and the very same people that are doing this are the very same people that crucified him to the cross. If you guys think about this, Judas, the disciples, the people that crucified Jesus to the cross, all of us have that nature in us. We like Jesus when he heals us. We like Jesus when he does good things for us. But the moment that he requires us to die, the moment he requires us to lay down our lives, to lay down the most prized possession that we have, that's the time we say, oh, wait a minute. Let me crucify you to the cross. I feel like these disciples, they all had the potential to be like Judas. Maybe that's a bold statement, but what I'm saying is the nature of sin is exactly Judas, what Judas did. And you know what Jesus does? We see later on, Thursday, the Last Supper, he eats together with these guys that are self-centered. He eats with them and he breaks the bread and says, this is my body. Do this in remembrance of me. And he breaks his body just like his body would be broken for them. And he's doing this even with Judas, even with Peter, these ones who are actually very self-centered. And then he takes the cup and says, this is my blood, symbolizing the Passover lamb of Exodus 12. He is that sacrifice, that sacrificial lamb for these guys that are self-centered. As we know, Judas commits suicide, but Peter is a sign and a wonder. You know why? Because he was the one that said, Jesus, I will never deny you. But lo and behold, he denies Jesus 3 times. But what we see in Peter is someone who is taken back, from a place who's denied Jesus, who's sinned, but someone that's been restored. And we see ourselves in that position. All of us at one point of time denied God. All of us at one point of time did not want to give everything to God, did not want to love God, did not want to, do any of that, because in sinful nature, we are all self-centered. But what we see in Peter is once he experiences the love of God, it transforms him to the point where when he dies, he says, I cannot die like Jesus. Hang me upside down. And he dies upside down. I feel like what's amazing about the love of God, what's amazing about the gospel message is that when we truly understand it, we will respond like Mary. And I want to say that for us, if we grow in the knowledge of Jesus, if we grow in intimacy with God, it changes everything. And so the timeline we see is Saturday before Palm Sunday. Mary anoints Jesus with this costly perfume. She gives her most prized possession to Jesus. Then Monday, Sunday, Jesus comes into Jerusalem. He rides on a donkey. They're saying Hosanna. Then starting on Monday, Jesus curses the fig tree, and the fig tree plays a big role. The fig tree symbolizes humanity before God. If we do not have fruit when Jesus appears, we will be condemned. If we do not have the fruit of faith, we will be condemned. We see that Jesus is cleansing the temple. The temple, a place of worship, is being used for other things. You guys know we are the temple of God. We were created in his image. We are created to worship God. But in sin, we are worshiping other things. And Jesus on Monday was cleansing the temple. Tuesday, the disciples see the fig tree. And Jesus is now teaching the Pharisees and people that are trying to trap him. Jesus is giving all these teachings. And Wednesday was when Judas decides to betray Jesus. Thursday, we see the disciples having the Passover meal. And not only that, after the meal, Jesus washes the feet of his disciples, showing that this is Christian life. We're not meant to be served. We're meant to serve others. We're meant to love God and love others. And we see that night Jesus goes to the Garden of Gethsemane and prays. And that's where he's betrayed. And that's where he's taken. And from then on, he's tried, he's tested, and he's killed on that Friday. And later on, starting tomorrow, I will share in more detail of what goes on. Thank you guys for tuning in. And I just want to say, if we realize the love of God, that changes everything. And so I want you guys to really go deep in learning of his love for us, learning his love for you, and allow yourself to see a response like Mary. That is the ministry of preparation. That is the ministry that John the Baptist did. And that's the ministry we're all called to do. We're all called to love him and to prepare for his return. God bless you guys. Thanks for tuning in.